How you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing good.
That's great. Well, we got a cool episode. It's of the 3-wheel variety.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, different for us.
We're doing a Tuk Tuk or a Rikshaw. Is this the project?
Yeah, that's the one. So it's kind of still a motorcycle, we'll say.
Yeah.
In that it has the front end of a motorcycle, but then the back end has 2 wheels, so it's a trike. But it's still very much
like in a biker gang of sorts.
Okay, yeah, no, this would be not nearly as cool as one of those. It's not very fast.
Just flip the switch to the electrically powered reverse drive, and back you'll go.
Yeah. This is a people transport as more than anything. I mean, although you can build it out with a bed, you can do a lot of things. It's really popular outside of the U.S., especially like in Asia. These are really common.
All right, let's roll a little footage on this and let's have a look at this project you've done.
How can I build a Tuk Tuk? Step 1 is to come up with a really good plan with some professional drawings. Step 2, find a solid donor bike. The cheaper the better. We're looking for a good frame, but who cares about the motor? Then go ahead and order your new parts. You're going to want a solid axle in the rear with an attached motor. These are easily found online for pretty cheap. Now comes the fun part. Get out the Sawzall and start hacking it up. Now it's kind of starting to take shape a little bit, right? Maybe you can picture what it's going to look like when it's all built. Of course, we're missing a main ingredient, which is steel. If you're lucky like me, you have a brother-in-law that has a steel yard that you can go through and pick out what you want. In fact, he even helped me cut some of them to length so that I could get them home a little easier. Remember that plan you did in step 1? Well, now's the time to execute. Start cutting up the steel beams and welding them together. I've always been more of a measure once, cut once kind of guy and just deal with it. But in this case, I am trying to make it a little more square, mostly because this is going to be a vehicle. And so if it gets out of true, it's really not going to drive right. Now you may notice that I'm using a stick welder here, or arc welder as it's called. It's not really ideal, but it's really good for thick steel. Now honey, if you're listening to this, for Christmas I wouldn't mind a wire feed for MIG welder. I'll send you the link. It's called Dirtdadmoto, right? Well, there's never a shortage of helpers. Sometimes they don't really do anything, but sure. And here it is right side up. Being that it's a 3-wheeled vehicle, you can't take that for granted. I really hope that I don't tip this thing. You can see where I've temporarily welded the old frame to the new frame. This is just kind of to hold it in place and keep it straight until I can build a better structure. In Utah, there's basically no child labor laws. Also no OSHA, so you can see he's kind of squinting his eyes to protect him. Here's that permanent structure I was talking about. Now there are a lot of complicated cuts in here and angles. I did have some footage, but there was too much profanity, so I had to cut it out. So you're just seeing me weld it at the end. Here's those complicated angles again. I did my best, but there were still some gaps I needed to fill in. Easy enough, just cut in some plate and weld it up. With the frame basically done, now it's time to turn my attention to the roof. There's a lot of pieces on this. It is a thinner gauge steel, so not exactly a rope cage, but pretty strong still. Didn't want it to be super heavy. Here I am with a move that's completely out of character. A 90-degree square to make sure that things are square and level. That's not usually how I build stuff. Here's everything tacked in and mostly square. I mean, I did my best, but stuff moves around. This is heavy steel. Notice the patina. That's not really on purpose, although that's a pretty popular look these days. We'll take care of that in a little bit. This is called speed welding. No, but seriously, you can see I move around quite a bit. This metal is a little bit thin and I'm trying to burn it into some thicker stuff there at the base. so I'm moving around to not get one spot to melt through. With the roof out of the way, now I can turn my attention to the seats. I'm going to use the same type of metal, but a little bit thinner gauge. Now those aren't the prettiest welds you've ever seen, but a grinder can really clean stuff up quite a bit. And only 3 F-bombs later, I have a basic structure for my seats. Still need some uprights though. At this point I'm completely ashamed of my welds, so I'm grinding them down. Also I'm hitting the rust off, trying to get that down to bare metal so it's ready to paint. Now reminiscent of my troubled high school years, I'm out with a rattle can trying to paint this thing. In hindsight, doing this with a rattle can was a terrible idea. I ruined so many things, shoes, my motorcycle stand. I got overspray everywhere. This was really a horrible project, and it was made even worse by the fact that it was this bright red. I mean, it came out great, but I have a lot of regrets in the way that I painted this.
So this episode, Tom, you hacked up an old Kawasaki, fabricated a full frame, put an axle on, painted it, Rembo brakes. What's next?
Next is going to be to actually power it up. So we'll put the battery in, we'll hook up all the electrical. There's just so many parts and pieces for connectors and sensors and things like that. We'll get the seats put in, a lot of the finish work, and hopefully we get a test ride out of
I
it.
can't wait to see it.
You'll be there.
Yes, I will.
Wait, before you leave, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you're notified every time we post a new video. And don't forget to comment down below how cool you think my dad's channel is.